ZakPak, he's always there for you. ZakPak, only on YouTube. ZakPak, what will he do next? ZakPak, let's find out, 'cause it's on with the show.
Hello there, ZakPak! Long time no see! That's not even a real gun! I've been stuck in that attic for over a year! And now it's your turn to pay! Now, Jeb, you really don't have to do this, man. You know, one of the last things we talked about before you shoved me in that attic was the Spongebob games. Remember that? You say that they're good, but you haven't even played any of them for your show. You played Aladdin and Super Mario Sunshine, even freaking Shrek 2, I just heard. Well, you know, no, I don't know. But the one thing I do know is that now you're going to be playing some SpongeBob games. Go on, give your little viewers there, yeah, I see you watching. Give them a little history lesson on that there little sponge called SpongeBob. For those who don't know, SpongeBob Squarepants is a show that began all the way back in 1999 and is still running to this day. And, of course, there are many video games for SpongeBob. And when I say many, I mean very many. A whole freaking lot of them. Over the course of my life, I've played a lot of these games. They're not all home runs, but there are definitely worse games out there to play. Look, I promise you, Jeb, there are no bad SpongeBob games. I've played a lot of really good ones. Battle for Bikini Bottom, the movie game. There's no bad SpongeBob games, so let's just calm down and... No, we're finishing this right here, right now. While I go and turn those lights on, you better go grab yourself a SpongeBob game. We're gonna be here for a while. Okay, well... Look, I'll grab from my stack of SpongeBob games, okay? Why don't we start out with this one, this really good one, SpongeBob Squarepants. SpongeBob Squarepants? I know you're making that one up. Nope, I'm not. I promise, this one is a very real game. SpongeBob Squarepants is a minigame compilation that came out on both the Nintendo Wii and the Nintendo 3DS. The Wii version utilizes the U-Draw tablet, and the 3DS version utilizes the touchscreen, which is how I played the game. This game is basically a WarioWare clone, where you are thrown into these short 3 to 5 second minigames in rapid succession, and you have to react accordingly to them. It sounds very complicated, but it is so much fun when you get into it. You can tell that a lot of love and thought went into this game, as each level has different art styles, music types, and theming that just oozes with charm. There are also these cool FMV parts with Patchy the Pirate, and it is just clear that the studio that made this game definitely put a lot of heart and soul into this one. Even though this game is short and somewhat light on content, it is actually one that I can properly recommend you play, but specifically on the Nintendo 3DS. I don't know too much about the Wii version, but I've heard that using the U-Draw tablet with this game is more of a pain than it's worth. So, pick up the 3DS version. No, that one's a fluke. Here, try the next one on the pot. Oh, jeez. SpongeBob Squarepants, Light Camera Pants. Okay, if you insist. SpongeBob Squarepants, Lights Camera Pants is a 4-player party game with a unique gimmick. There's no board game for you to play on, but there is an actual story for you to go through. The story is that there is a special Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy episode being made, but there are several roles in the episode that need to be filled. So this hammerhead shark guy named Gil Hammerstein, nice name, holds these auditions to fill these roles, and each audition takes the form of a minigame. Each minigame is themed to an area and the role in which you are auditioning for. There are minigames in Mrs. Puff's boating school, the Krusty Krab, and even the Sand Stadium. When you complete all these auditions, you get to see the episode completed where all the roles are filled, and it's honestly a really fun episode to watch. The minigames are honestly really fun as well, with some of my favorites being Goo Gladiators, where you have to shoot your opponents off of the ledge using goo guns. It is absolutely chaotic fun. Then there's all the Sand Stadium minigames, which are all really fun rhythm-based minigames, especially the minigame called Rock Bottom, which is basically like Guitar Hero, but on a little bit of a smaller scale. It's also got an absolutely rockin' song that plays in this minigame. Then there is Flippin' Out, which takes place in the Krusty Krab, which is a speedy builder flipping minigame where you work with a partner to put out as many burgers as you can. You have to toss burgers from your own stove over to your partner's stove so that they can bag them up. It's a super fast-paced minigame that can get really hectic really quickly. Overall, this is honestly one of my favorite party games out there. It is a very underrated game, let alone a freaking SpongeBob game.
Alright, enough of this. Here's an actual really bad one. SpongeBob SquarePants Revenge of the Flying Dutchman.
Give me that. Oh, dear lord. SpongeBob SquarePants Revenge of the Flying Dutchman is the first ever SpongeBob 3D platformer, and boy oh boy, this one is rough. While the story of the Flying Dutchman taking Gary is a pretty fun story, I must say that the narrator in this game is...
You can carry the stick to Gary and delight him.
He's oddly seductive sounding. Gameplay-wise, here's the thing. Nothing about this game is necessarily bad, but none of it is necessarily good either. Part of the game's mechanics is switching between different costumes that give SpongeBob different abilities. Honestly, this is a pretty cool mechanic on paper, but in practice, it just doesn't work. Not to mention, each costume has its own dedicated music, and more often than not, you're going to be using the jellyfishing outfit. This jellyfishing music is going to be a constant throughout your playthrough, and you better get used to it, or else you are going to absolutely lose your mind.
Man, I'm starting to lose it, man. No, you're not getting out of this easily. Keep on playing, boy. Telling me to keep playing.
On top of that, the platforming is not great. The depth perception can be really bad at times. Expect to fall to your death a lot, especially in that section where you have to deliver Krabby Patties up on the Bikini Bottom rooftops. Yeah, this section is a nightmare. Overall, this game is not the worst SpongeBob game, but it is very far from being the best.
Alrighty, we got our first stinker. What's up next? Well, try this one on for size. Creature from the Krusty Krab.
Hell, you bastard.
SpongeBob SquarePants Creature from the Krusty Krab is definitely one of the most interesting games in the whole entire lineup of SpongeBob games. This game all takes place within the dreams of SpongeBob, Patrick, and Plankton, and takes on many different gameplay types and visual styles. SpongeBob is the most varied in this department, as he has segments that are standard, albeit uninteresting 3D platforming segments, but then he has these racing segments where...
Oh dear Lord,
my
Jesus
God,
Christ,
that is
power of Christ
nasty.
compels you.
Yeah, they definitely got a little creative with the art style for this. But the racing is honestly pretty dang good. Then there is Patrick. His dream basically portrays him as a superhero called Starfish Man, and his first level is this pretty cool, cel-shaded kind of action-y style level. It looks pretty cool, but there's nothing really special about the combat. It's just pretty standard, generic stuff. Lastly, Plankton's dream is all about world domination and living giant Krabby Patties. Plankton segments have some pretty good variety as well, with some chase sequences where you're running away from a giant Krabby Patty, as well as some Godzilla city-destroying like levels. This game is fine, honestly, but my main problem with it is that some levels are way longer than they need to be. Since none of the platforming or combat is anything to really write home about, each level that relies a lot on them kinda end up dragging and not being overly fun. And then the actual fun levels, like the chase levels and the driving levels, just don't last as long as you'd want them to. Overall though, this game isn't really that bad, and actually has a really rockin' soundtrack, so I'd say this one is at least worth giving a try.
SpongeBob SquarePants Super Sponge. Oh boy.
SpongeBob SquarePants Super Sponge is one of the earliest SpongeBob games ever made, and it is a 2D platformer. Before now, actually, this is actually a game that I had never played before, so I went into this one completely blind. And this game is meh. Like, it's the definition of a basic standard 2D platformer. I'll be honest, I really don't have much to say about it. I'm already not the biggest fan of 2D platformers, and then add on top of that this one is a mediocre one at best. This just isn't it. Don't bother with this game. Moving on. SpongeBob Hero Pants came out on both home console and handheld consoles, and I am playing the 3DS version of this game, and dear lord. If Super Sponge was a mediocre 2D platformer, then Hero Pants is a mediocre 3D platformer. Again, it is just bland, boring, uninspired, and just overall, nothing special. You can play as multiple different characters, which is nice, and there are times where you can utilize the character's superpowers from the second SpongeBob movie, which is what this game is based on, even though the names of the movie and the game don't even match up, but nevertheless, I don't even know what else to say. Don't bother with this game either. God, this is so... ugh. Alright, fine. I'm taking control now. Give me those games. Ugh. Alright, we're gonna move on to some actually good SpongeBob games, and where better to start than the SpongeBob SquarePants movie game. The SpongeBob SquarePants movie game is a 3D platformer tie-in game to the movie of the same name. This is honestly a really solid platformer with lots of gameplay variety. Most levels you'll be taking control of either SpongeBob or Patrick and platforming through a variety of levels, but there are also some fun sliding levels and, some driving stages. Yeah, these driving stages are pretty mediocre, but even so, they're not too bad. There are also some fun challenges to complete within each level, like the Super Monkey Ball-esque rolling ball challenges as SpongeBob, the floating block platforming challenges with Patrick, and these cool flying sonic wave guitar challenges. There's a lot of fun to be had here, but the main flaw of this game is that for your characters to learn essential moves that you will need to progress through the game, you need to earn a certain amount of Goofy Goober token to give to Mindy. Meaning that those tedious driving stages and their challenges are actually going to be important to complete to make sure that you have those Goofy Goober tokens that you need to proceed without having to backtrack even further. Honestly though, I absolutely love this game and think that it is one of SpongeBob's absolute best gaming outings. But of course, the SpongeBob SquarePants movie game isn't the best SpongeBob game. No. That right is reserved for SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom. Battle for Bikini Bottom is one of, if not the most well-known SpongeBob game. Like the movie game, it is a 3D platformer collectathon, and it is such a good one. The way this game controls is absolutely sublime. The music is so good and so catchy, and it is honestly one of the best platformers I have ever played. And I'm not just talking about SpongeBob platformers, I'm talking about 3D platformers of all time. It's simple in its gameplay, but the gameplay feels very smooth and fun that its simplicity doesn't matter and actually helps the game. I may be biased here because of how much I've played this game, but I also feel like this game is very balanced. The difficulty is balanced, being not too hard and not too easy. The gameplay is balanced, not relying too much on the combat, and the levels themselves are pretty balanced, none of them overstaying their welcome. Well, okay, Kelp Forest does overstay its welcome a little bit, and there is that slide. You will die over and over and over and over and over again. Oh, and don't even get me started on Mr. Krabs' Dream. That challenge can be an absolute freaking nightmare. But besides Kelp Forest, every other level is fun, creative, and just oozes that SpongeBob charm. This game is so good that it even got the remake treatment back in 2020, and it's not great. While it's still just as fun as you remember the original being, there are certain things that are less polished. There are quite a few audio bugs in this game, like this really loud sound whenever you respawn into Goo Lagoon. Ah, jeez! And Hans, the hand that picks you up when you go out of bounds from the original game, is basically non-functional here. But even with its flaws, it's a good way to experience the game if you do not have an older console or the original Battle for Bikini Bottom. So yeah, even though Battle for Bikini Bottom was popular enough to get a remake, it wasn't popular enough to get a sequel. That is until about 20 years later when they released Spongebob Squarepants The Cosmic Shake. The Cosmic Shake was the sequel almost 20 years in the making. It builds off of the remake of Battle for Bikini Bottom and expands it into a new game. This game controls and feels very much like Battle for Bikini Bottom, but expands upon it in a lot of ways. This game introduces, or I guess technically brings back, the costume mechanic from Revenge of the Flying Dutchman, but this time the costumes are completely cosmetic. Overall, this game is definitely good and is a worthy sequel to Battle for Bikini Bottom, but I do feel like there are a couple of weak points. This game does not have that many levels, and a lot of the levels that the game does have are honestly pretty short, making this game a lot shorter than I would have personally liked. And then there's the final boss of this game, and I think that is this game's biggest disappointment. As cool as the boss is conceptually, it was way too easy and did not feel climactic at all. It was very lackluster. Despite those flaws though, I still do think the Cosmic Shake is a pretty good game, and I really hope that the developers, Purple Lamp Studios, really wows us with whatever the next SpongeBob game is, and personally, I think this is the perfect game to end this SpongeBob tirade on.
Oh no, there is one last SpongeBob game I want you to play.
Ah, jeez, where'd you even get this one?
SpongeBob SquarePants Plankton's Robotic Revenge? Oh no, I've heard things about this one. Anything but this one. Play it!
SpongeBob SquarePants Plankton's Robotic Revenge is a 3D platformer where you can take control of 1 out of 5 SpongeBob characters as you go through levels, defeating Plankton and his army of robots. While this story seems very similar to another certain SpongeBob game that we may have already talked about, that is where the similarities between these two games end. The levels in this game are incredibly linear, and this game focuses way more on its combat than it does its platforming. In fact, each level has the same kind of flow. Run through a bit of platforming, fight some enemies in a contained spot, run a little bit more, fight some more enemies, etc, etc. However, this game also does give you weapons that you could use. These weapons are used to solve puzzles and take down certain enemies. Honestly, I found the weapons to really not do much at all, but the only slightly cool thing about this is that you actually can upgrade the weapons, and it does help a little bit. It's not overly helpful, but it's at least an option that's there. But at the end of the day, upgrading some weapons can only do so much to improve a shitty game. The main problem with this game personally is that it's just very boring and very tedious.
Man, games are supposed to elicit some sort of reaction out of you, whether it be happiness, sadness, anger even, or even love. But no, this game does not do that. It's the pinnacle of just lifeless, boring, nothing to it. Man, there really are some bad SpongeBob games out there, like this one, and even some of the other ones I covered today. I guess that hillbilly was right. Well, this is now the end of the road, isn't it, ZakPak?
Whoa. I did not want part of this. I just wanted to relax.
Quiet, Bluey! Now, you played all those games just like I asked. You were such a willing participant of this game. However, your time has expired. Any last words?
Why, yes. In fact, I do have some last words. I really wish that you would just go back home and forgot that any of this ever happened.
Wishing ain't gonna get you nowhere, boy! You're gonna die!
Well, I guess maybe I should do something, huh?
Goodbye.
Goodbye, ZakPak. What the fish hell?
Well, I guess it's time for you to go home.
No. No! I'm gonna get you, ZakPak! Oh, but if I can't, oh, then that weird hooded fellow will.
Wait, what hooded fellow?
Oh, you don't know? Oh, this is just too good!
Ciao!
Well, that was your third wish, Zach. This is where I have to bid you adieu.
Yeah, thank you for everything, Genie. Well, back into your game to live your nice, full, peaceful, no more wish needed life. Well, that is that. Now, I wonder what Jeb meant by hooded fellow. What is this, like Harry Potter or something? Wait. What's that music? You've got to be kidding me.
ZakPak, he's always there for you. ZakPak, only on YouTube. ZakPak, what will he do next? ZakPak, let's find out, 'cause it's on with the show.
Hello? What are you still doing here? The credits are done. What, are you expecting some sort of post-credit scene? This isn't a Marvel movie, you know. This is a low-budget YouTube video. Well, all I can say is, stay tuned for Season 2. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of fun stuff coming your way.